Another week, another Doctor Who episode, and therefore another Doctor Who episode review. And after last week's less than thrilling romp, I guess is the right word for it, we're back with, I would argue, a return to form, with a historical, which I endorse. I love a good historical. I thought the historicals in Series 11 were actually amongst some of the best historicals of Doctor Who period, which, new series probably mainly, to be honest, but that was an aspect of Series 11 that I did like, the historicals. So I was quite excited for this one, and I was not disappointed. I think my expectations were lowered from last week, to be honest, because I did think last week's episode was absolutely dire, to be honest. I thought the script was all over the place, and I do think, despite a shaky start, I think the episode got off to a bit of a off start. It kind of didn't work at first, but then as the story got on, I think it really did work. It felt, I was worried when they had that opening that it was going to be like Orphan 55 and they're just going to rush into the plot without much explanation. And they kind of do. There's no real explanation for why they're in New York other than the fact that they're just there, the fam. But I think it works. I do think it works. So, yeah, I'm going to talk briefly about the Doctor and the companions now. So, the Doctor and the fam. And actually, for once, I think Yaz was the highlight. Again, Yaz had some great moments in this episode. I think she was probably, out of the three of them, the one that was on point the most, actually, which makes a change from Series 11. I think she had some really great moments with all of the characters in this episode. I think she had some great moments with Nikola Tesla, played by Goran Vishnik. And I think she had some great moments with Edison as well as having some fun moments on the spaceship with the Doctor and Queen Skithra. But I thought she probably did the best out of the main unit for this series. Ryan and Graham sort of are suffering from the Yaz complex and the fact that they didn't have anything to do in this episode. Ryan had a couple of lines, but apart from that, I mean, Ryan had a couple of lines with I can't remember her name, but Nikola Tesla's assistant. He actually had a little nice moment with her on the TARDIS when they were going to try and teleport onto the Skithra ship. I thought that he had a nice moment there, but other than that, he was pretty much useless. And Graham just was Yaz in Series 11 for this episode. Literally, he didn't really get much to say or do. I remember on the train at the start of the episode, there was a moment where Yaz said something and Ryan said something, and then Graham just pointed at Ryan, and I thought, hang on, usually Graham has something funny to say at this point, and he's just not doing it. The 13th Doctor was as good as she has ever been, to be fair to her. She wasn't doing anything amazing or incredibly notable other than putting goggles on, which I think she looks adorable in the goggles. I really do. I remember when the Funko Pop of her and the goggles came out. It's just so cute. But she doesn't do anything wrong in this episode, except that it's incredibly obvious at this point that it became obvious to me that there are so many greater actors out there when Goran Vishnik did an incredible performance in this episode, and we'll get into him later, but it's very obvious that he massively overacted compared to Jodie, who was doing all right. She's just doing her standard thing, but she was incredibly overacted by upstaged by the person playing Thomas Edison, which is, Nikola Tesla, who actually gives one of the best performances as for a historical figure for a while. He's on par with Vinette Robinson as Rosa Parks, but not as good as whoever played Vincent van Gogh in 2010's Vincent and the Doctor. He's on par with Rosa, which is a very good place to be in, because again, Rosa to me is one of the legendary historical stories of New Who, and one of the legendary historical stories of all time. It's not the best, but it is one of the best. And when I watched it, I remember thinking it was the best in 10 years. Upon that comment, upon reflection, maybe it wasn't, but I still think it still holds up to me. But yeah, so that's the main companion unit. We're going to talk about some of the other things in the story that I liked. Now, Goran Vishnik, who I'm probably butchering the name of, but I am going to give him props because he has given an incredible performance in this episode. He really has. He really knocked it out the park. And he was helped by actually some incredible, by a pretty decent guest writer actually for the series. I can't remember her name, but it's actually, once you get past the opening act, the second and third act are actually quite strong. The third act is probably the strongest part about this episode. I was really on board with that final act, and there are so many great moments with him. When he was on board in the TARDIS, his line about realising how the dimensions of the TARDIS transcend the outward dimensions was one of the best reactions anyone's ever had to being inside the TARDIS. And I think this is true of Edison as well, although in a slightly different sense, because what Edison does in terms of his character makes sense. But with Nikola Tesla, it's just amazing. He's just looking at this machine in awe, as someone should do when they turn to the TARDIS. Whereas when, say, Billie Piper just walks into the TARDIS, or Amy just walks into the TARDIS, they just feel sick. They don't understand it. Whereas Nikola Tesla is amazed by it. He really gets it. Which I think is something that I think is something that we don't get often in Doctor Who, which I think is really nice, actually, to have that kind of moment in Doctor Who, because we don't often get, to put it bluntly, intelligent companions in New Who. I guess, I don't know if I can really think of, but we haven't really had, what I mean by intelligent is like scientists is what I mean by that. So we haven't had anyone like, say, Nyssa, who bounced off the Fifth Doctor quite well. And I agree with Peter Davison when he said she was one of the better companions of the original trio in season 19, where he said she's the only one who really wanted to be there, because I think if we had someone like Nikola Tesla on board the TARDIS, they would want to be there. They would want to be discovering the universe and finding out its great riches, which is something which I really wish we would get more often in Doctor Who, because I think the companions particularly in this series, and obviously from series 11 as well, I just feel like they don't get the TARDIS. They don't get the admiration for all this wonder of the universe like previous companions have. But I thought he, again, as I said, he overacted Jodie Whittaker. But having said that, I think he would have made a good companion if the circumstances were better. But I really do think he would have made a really fun companion. I think it's about pretty much any historical famous person that's in Doctor Who, because I do think they would all make great companions, really. I think Agatha Christie would have made a great companion as well, and Frank Skinner, although he isn't a historical companion. But talking of Frank Skinner, I liked the reference to the Orient Express as well, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I really liked Goran Vishnik's performance. Now we get another historical figure in this episode. It's a historical figure double bill, I guess. Double whammy, you know. But someone I can't remember the name of is in this episode as Thomas Edison. And to be fair to him, he doesn't get much to do, to be fair, but it's an overcrowded TARDIS as it is. But he still gets more to do than the companions, which is kind of funny. But never before has the guest star had more to do than an actual companion, which I thought was funny. But anyway, he does, to him credit, he's very much... He does seem like he slips into the role of Thomas Edison quite well. I think Thomas Edison is something we should have had Doctor Who a long time ago, as well as Nikola Tesla, and they all give off a great performance. I thought it sounds like such a Doctor Who episode, particularly with the fact that Nikola Tesla receives a signal from Mars, and Thomas Edison all being in the same episode. It just makes me smile and feel happy, because it's such an amazing historical to do. Because here's the thing with Doctor Who historicals before the Chris Chibnall era, and I will give Chris Chibnall credit for this, is he's focused on world history, which is something that we often miss in schools. We missed in Doctor Who. We never really got world history in Doctor Who. We have a couple of world history stories, like the Romans, and the Aztecs, but I think that's about it. And they were all in the 60s. I don't think we've ever had a modern historical that was set in another country before series 11, I don't think. Probably wrong about that, but you know. It was nice. I think something we really needed to have in an episode, because you got the whole electricity thing, and it's something we're not taught about in schools. I touched on Thomas Edison very briefly in primary school. I didn't even know who Nikola Tesla was. I remember when the trailer came out and everyone was talking about, oh yeah, I recognise him, he's Nikola Tesla, isn't he? I was like, who's Nikola Tesla? I'm sorry, I was really confused. I didn't research him beyond to this because I wanted Doctor Who to teach me something about him. I didn't know, but yeah, that's about Nikola Tesla again, but we're talking about Thomas Edison. Yeah, Thomas Edison is, he slips into the role. It's very well written. I think it seems quite plausible to be like Thomas Edison. And I love how, even at the end, like how how he has such good chemistry with the guy who does play Nikola Tesla as well, and how you can see that they're at each other's throats, and they can, that you can tell that they're not particularly good friends, they're rivals. But then you see them mellow because of the Doctor. You see how, but then Thomas Edison offers him a job at the end of the episode, and you're just like, oh, it's really sweet. And then he, of course, he wants to be by himself and create his own inventions, Nikola Tesla. And I admire him for that. Actually, I do admire him for that. But it's an interesting depiction of Thomas Edison, because I don't think it's something we really get touched on. We just think of him as the man who invented the light bulb, but in actuality, he's just a man who basically had a factory of ideas and just sold them on, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, that's business, isn't it? That's just what business is, really. But it was. I think we could have done maybe more with him, but I think it was good that we got what we got. And I liked the focus on Nikola Tesla, to be fair, because I don't think Nikola Tesla gets good enough rap. When people like me don't even know who he is, I mean, so it was clearly important to put that focus on Nikola Tesla, but I would have maybe liked a bit more from Thomas Edison. And who knows, we might get another episode with him. I doubt it, but we might. We can hope. Now, let's talk about the main villain of this story, Queen Skithra and the Skithra race. I actually really liked Angie Mahindra in this. It was very funny because I was like, my sister hadn't noticed that it was Ronnie because she didn't know or anything. But I was like, it's Ronnie. I was like, Angie, she's here. I was like, it's Queen Angie. It's Queen Ronnie. All hail. I was like, it was really nice to have Angie Mahindra back, because I think Ronnie was such a great part of the Sarah J. Adventures, and she does give a very good performance, even for a child actress. I don't think she was a child actress at that point. She probably wasn't. But she gave I think all the kids from the Sarah J. Adventures, considering the stigma towards child actors and child roles, they all give an incredibly good performance, except maybe Sky at the end, Sky in series 5. But I think Angie Mahindra as Ronnie was one of the better and more memorable things about the Sarah J. Adventures. So it's nice to have her in this role. And the thing about I mentioned that Act 3 was one of the best acts for this story. I was like, I remember her walking onto as if she was like, and Queen Skithra enters, and she's just like, she has this, like, she's expecting a round of applause when she walks in. It's such a great performance. She's so regal in her performance, and it's incredible. I thought it was hilarious, but I loved it. It's like that moment in Spyfall Part 1 where the music for Me and My Mates, or the 30th Doctor's theme, or whatever, it sounds like the James Bond theme. It's so awful, but you absolutely love it. It's amazing. It's really cringy, but it's just so Doctor Who that you just can't help but love it. And I was like, yes, she's just owning this place like the real queen she is, because she is a queen, and she just fits the role so well. It's nice to have that kind of female role for a villain, because we didn't really get many female villains in Series 11. I think we had one, and that was technically a mud-possessed woman. So really, the woman wasn't really the villain. I can't remember what her name was. I don't rewatch Series 11, really. I definitely don't rewatch The Witchfinders, because I really hated it. I really hated The Witchfinders. I know a lot of people really like it, but I really hated The Witchfinders. I think it's nice to have that kind of evil villain role, and she really does kill this role. She really does. And the way she's just like able to control all the creepy sort of projected Skithra that are all hiding in their weird mask things. And there's another thing with where the sort of aliens that look like they're like sleeper agents or whatever, or just I'm going to say reconnaissance agents, because I think that's a good word for it. And the way I like the CGI with their faces when they're sort of like morphing into their real form. Well, you don't actually see them morph into their real form, but you see them sort of sort of being like in that real form. And they're just trying, you see the shadow of their scorpion tail. I thought the CGI in that scene was really nice. It felt properly like a horror movie special effect. But to be fair, horror movies don't really always have the best special effects, because they're usually the lower budget films, because they're a niche sort of film, to be fair. I mean, we've had a couple of blockbuster horror movies in recent years, like the It movies and so on, but not really anything majorly high budget or whatever, really. But I thought that was a really good effect with the creepy sleeper agents. And also, I think they name dropped Venusian, and I immediately fanboyed because Venetian Aikido, and I finally got it because they're all like scorpions, and so it makes sense that Venusian Aikido would have like 6 arms or whatever. I was like, I remember that throwaway line from Naruto, you only need 6 arms for a Venusian, and he's like, I have hidden talents and hidden arms. I remember that line. I was just like, I love it. But I like that they name dropped the Solarians as well, because I remember everyone on Twitter, when the promo shot that I've used for this thumbnail for this video, I remember everyone going, oh my god, they're the Solarians in this episode. I was like, and I also like the fact that Jodie Whittaker says Solarians the same way I say Solarians, which is really awfully wrong compared to the Silurian that John Pertwee pronounces it at way back in the 1970s. But I thought that was really funny that she said it the same way I did, because no one's really gotten why I said Silurian instead of Silurian, but that is what it is. But yeah, overall, I really did like this episode. I think it's one of the stronger ones. I think it's probably the strongest of this series so far. I think it really is one of the better stand-alone episodes of the Chibnall era as well. It's up there with It Takes You Away for me. Probably better than It Takes You Away. I really did enjoy this. I think there was so many great performances. I like the set design of the New York sort of town sequences. I love that. I don't know. I remember them saying that they went to some kind of special place. I can't remember where to film that, but that it's really effective. It's really immersive. I love the blue TARDIS theme when they're shooting the electrical bolts up through the tower and up at the ship. I really like that. And there are just so many great moments from Goran Vishnik as Nikola Tesla. The Chibnall era really has been good at nailing historical figures. I really think he's done great. I think these eras were the better historical episodes, because they can depict these eras in a much better scale. So we wouldn't have really gone a good enough set like they did for the village, the New York village. In this episode, you just wouldn't have got that in the classic era, or even say 10 years ago, you just wouldn't have been able to have that. So it's really nice to have it get the love of a feature film, and it does feel, I think, again, much like Spyfall, I think this is one of the episodes that do feel more like a cinema film, more than any other episode that's ever tried to feel like it. These all episodes, I do think they do stand on their own. I really do like this episode. I am not going to give it a 10 or a 9, although my heart is begging me to do it, because I really did feel the feels in this episode. I really did feel the feels in this episode. I didn't cry or anything, but I really did. It was like a punch to my gut or something. But I really did like it. I like how they all come together at the end. It's like a Disney movie, and I really do like it. But yeah, I'm gonna put it mainly. I can't really give it a 9 or a 10 because the ending the start was a bit off. But I'm very glad they didn't do the thing where they go to modern day and show the impact of all his ideas like they did with Vincent and Van Gogh. Otherwise, it would have been too much like the Doctor and Vincent and the Doctor, because it did borderline feel a lot like that episode. But yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna put it on the same level as Spyfall Part 2, because I think I like it just as much, and I also love historicals. I am a sucker for historicals, but so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, in conclusion, I really did like this episode. I think it, again, one of the better historicals and just one of the better standalone episodes as it is. And my confidence is reinstated with Series 12, because Orphan 55 was just really awful. Fugitive the Jadoon next week at 7:10 on BBC One next Sunday. I don't get why they brought the Jadoon back, but they did. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what they do with it, because I'm not as confident because I didn't feel confident when they announced the Jadoon, but we'll see. It's written by Vinay Patel, and he wrote Demons of the Punjab, which is a solid episode. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the episode, or if you didn't enjoy the episode, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to say, but I hope you had a nice day and have a nice week, I guess. But yeah, thanks for watching.